let's continue to Python for AWS. Uh, we are continuing uh, Python object-oriented programming as part of Python for AWS team. Let's see. In this session, uh, first we are going to understand what is class, what is object, how to create classes, how to create objects, what are we are going to define inside a class, how to call those class members. So we are going to discuss about different examples related to class and object. So first important point about Python is a scripting oriented programming, modular oriented programming, procedure oriented programming, and object oriented programming too. It supports all these programming techniques. Because of these four techniques include in a single programming, in all data solutions, data related implementations, people are using Python like data analytics, data engineering, data science, generative AI. In all these data related, people are using Python. So let's understand Python object-oriented programming. In Python, object-oriented programming means class and object. Writing classes, creating objects to that class, and using members of that class. Using members of that class. First, let's start understanding what is class with example. Next, we are going to understand what is an object with example. Okay. First, let's start understanding what is class. Yeah. Definition of class is a user-defined data type, and class is a logical structure. It does not have physical entity. Class is a logical structure. It does not have physical entity. Example, if we ask in many classes, if I ask, have you seen tree? Most of the people saying, I have seen mango tree, banana tree, orange tree, and coconut tree, but no one saying tree. My question is, have you seen tree? But people are saying these things. These are objects of a tree. Objects of a tree, not tree. These are objects of a tree. So tree contain roots, leaves, etc. Right? So mango tree contain roots, leaves, banana tree, orange tree, coconut tree, etc. Another question I asked in many people in our Python object-oriented classes. Have you seen person? Everyone saying, I see Pawan Kalyan, I see Modi, I see Badri, I see Sreenivas, I see Revant Reddy, but no one saying, I seen person. The person, when we say person, when we say person having one head and two legs, two legs and two hands, one nose and two eyes. So based on these properties, Pawan Kalyan is created, Modi is created, Badri is created, Revant Reddy is created. Yes or no? These are objects. Objects. Personality wise, they may look different, but all are having one head, two eyes, one nose, two hands, two legs, right? Yes or no? So all these are acquired from person class. All these are created from person class. So person means it's a logical, not physical. Physical means Pawan Kalyan, Modi, Badri, Revant Reddy. So logical do not have a physical entity. Physical entity means objects. So class is just a logical entity. It does not have physical entity. It means whenever you create a class in a Python program, it contain in hard disk space. Whenever you create an object memory is allocated in a RAM. If anything created in a RAM, we call it as physical. Similar to real world entity and logical entity. Logical entity is a person. Real world entity is we. Okay. And one more definition is class is a collection of objects. So based on this person in India, 140 crores are created, right? Both male and female. Similar way, in all over the world, based on person, lot of people are created. Means collection of objects. Class is a collection of objects. And one more definition, class is a blueprint for creation of object. Example, take civil drawing is a blueprint. So this is entry and this is complete hall and this is kitchen and this one is some uh, what we say mm, so dining and this one is master and this one is child. This is a blueprint. Based on this, a building is going to construct, right? So building is object, blueprint is class. Based on blueprint, a physical object is going to create, right? That's why class is a blueprint for creation of object. Based on person properties only, we create these persons, right? God is created all these persons, right? So class is a blueprint for creation of object. Now let's understand how to create a class. How to create a class. To create a class in Python, we have a class keyword. Class, class name, class block start, and you can define members. Members means variables, functions, and constructors. Example, class employee block start, def underscore underscore, init underscore underscore. Inside this, first parameter is self and variable 1, variable 2, variable 3. These are parameters. So this is function. So this function in Python, we call it as constructor. Underscore underscore init is a constructor. And like this, you can define your own function name like display employee, read employee, etc. You can define your own functions. So we'll discuss with complete example. Just I given syntax and uh, one sample example uh, uh, definition for class. Now let's see what is an object. Object is an instance of class. Instance of class. When I was in MCA, uh, first I referred definition class. What I say is okay, collection of objects. When I refer object, it is saying instance of class. Object is instance of class. Now let me give a clear clarity here. When I open Google Chrome, we can say Google Chrome instance is created. When I click on PyCharm, we can say PyCharm instance is created. When we open Notepad, we can say Notepad instance is created. Notepad instance is created. Okay. So if we open anything, we can say instance is created. Instance means memory allocated in the RAM. So to run anything, it should allocate memory in a RAM. If memory allocated for your class, then we call it as object. Instance of a class means object. Why people are calling object is an instance of class? Memory is allocating. Instance means memory. Where that memory is allocating? Inside a RAM. So, so class is a logical entity and object is a physical. Okay. Now let's see how to create an object. You can use this syntax. Class name, parenthesis, start, end, middle, we take list of variables. Optionally, list of variables. And for one class, you can create any number of objects. For one class, you can create any number of objects. That's why we are calling class is a collection of objects. Example, so what I am saying, for how to create an object to classes, this is the syntax. So we can create any number of objects to a class. So that's why we can call class is a collection of objects. Let me take one example so that you will get a clear understanding. I am taking one example class with this definition. Observe here. See, first class definition. This is class definition. In this class definition, first I am creating class using class keyword. Class name is employee, class block start. And here I am creating one constructor and one function. And inside constructor, I taken self keyword. Inside function, I taken self keyword. We will discuss this self keyword. Very, very important. Then I am taking this one. Then I am creating object, object, object here. I am creating object. Okay. And then I am calling function. First point here, if I want to create a object to my class, my constructor taking number of variables. So this is constructor. First point. First point. Understand constructor. Understand constructor. Name itself saying constructing something. Constructor is a special function. Special function means it is also a function. You no need to call constructor manually like function. Function we are calling object dot function name. Yes or no? Constructor you no need to call manually. Constructor is executed automatically. Constructor is executed automatically whenever you create an object. Constructor is executed automatically whenever we create an object. So my constructor is taking three parameters. Three parameters. This one we will discuss what is this self keyword. Understand after self we have how many parameters? Three parameters. My constructor is taking three parameters. That's why while creating object, we have to pass three parameters. So if my constructor taking only one parameter, you have to pass one parameter. If it takes three parameters, you have to pass three parameters because constructor is executed at the time of object creation. So here we are creating object. We are creating object E1. E1 is a reference variable. So whenever we create object, it is going to call automatically your constructor. Your constructor. So this constructor taking self keyword and variable 1, 2 and 3 variables parameters. Then inside this one we have a logic. Okay. Now understand self keyword. Self keyword. Self keyword can be used to point current object. Here, see inside self dot emplo. Self, when I say self dot emplo, what happens is first it will point to self is pointing to current object and it will check is there any variable? No. Underscore init means constructor. Using constructor, we can create variables. We can create variables. Yep, you are correct. Self is mandate in constructor inside a function to point current object. So inside a class, if you are writing constructor, if you are writing function to point to current object, to access current object variables, current object functions, self is mandate. Okay. So right side, you are passing this variable one. This variable one is going to replace a value. So here, object creation, first we are asking user to enter a employee number. So number, let's say 101. So we are reading value using input function. It is in string format. Then int converts this in integer format. Then it stores in variable. And name we are asking, let's say Srini, and salary. Salary, let's say 1 L, 1 lakh, 1 lakh. Then here we are passing 101 and Sreenivas. Then we are passing salary. Then these values are passed to constructor, and right side we are using these variables names. So employee number, right side employee number is going to replace with value. Where it is storing, means it is creating one variable and storing value 101, like salary, name, salary. So object is created. Once we create object definition, it is going to call constructor, and constructor is initializing your object. Yeah, someone is asking question. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Constructor is optional. Constructor is optional. Constructor executing automatically when we create an object. That's why we are defining. You can use, instead of constructor, you can use a separate function to initialize. So this one is a Python definition of object creation. Using function, I am accessing object variables. Okay. So I am accessing object variables, I am printing. While creating object, I am calling constructor. Then constructor is creating variables inside object and assigning values. Then using this function, using self keyword, I am accessing these three variables, then printing that variables. Okay. So language to language, syntax is different for creating object. In Python, we use class name, parenthesis start and parenthesis end, and then variable name. So this variable is a reference variable. It points to this object. Using this reference variable, we can call object functions, sorry, class functions. Let me once again clearly explain. So first, this is class definition. This is class definition. Okay. Whenever you run, it will not execute this class definition. Okay. Whenever you run, it will not execute this class definition. When this class definition is going to execute, whenever you create an object. Whenever you create an object, what happens? It is creating an object. It is calling constructor. It is calling constructor. Inside a constructor, we are creating a variables. So employee number, employee name, and salary. Then we are assigning values. Okay. Then it is also loads display employee function, and E1 is a reference variable to point to this object. Once object is created, we can call functions of that object. Whenever you call display employee, inside this display employee, we are using self dot empno, then it is reading this value, printing that value. Okay. So self is a keyword to point to current object. When we say self dot employee number, it points to current object, reads employee number. Okay. Clear writing, class definition, object creation, constructor, self, and function purpose. Let me execute this program. So I'm entering employee number is 101, employee name Sreenivas, then employee salary, I'm entering some salary, then it displaying those details.